I'd also been reading stuff of David Peoples, and I thought he came up with some very interesting dialogue.
They put me in this fantastic suite in the Chateau Marmont, sent a script over to me and said they'd be over in a couple hours. So I read the script, and my heart was broken because, I mean, they came in, they said, you know, have you read the script? And I said, yeah. And they said, well, what'd you think? And I said, I think it's terrific. I said, I can't think of anything to do to improve it, right? And that was true, but apparently it was the right thing to say anyway, because they both sort of beamed, because I think they liked it too. But they said that Ridley had some thoughts about it or something, and so on and so forth. And so, to my amazement, I was hired to do a rewrite.
I think what happened is I said to Hampton, look, there's this guy around who can come and do some of the city speaking, the dialogue. What I want you to do is meet him, and you tell me, because I felt it was so much his now, this, you know, script. He's doing all the work, I'm just sitting there being creative. And he said, okay. He was a little angry and a little hurt, I think, at the time.
Ridley never came right out and said, if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, then we'll get somebody else to do it. That never was said. Ridley was shy, he's manipulative, you know, whatever. He didn't tell me.
Hampton's an emotional person, like any other artist, and he can't have been happy at the whole idea of another writer coming in, and also at the changes that would make to his concept of the picture.
I was devastated. I started to cry. I said, what do you mean? You know, I got rat fucked. You know, I quit. I'm out. I'm gone. Then fuck you guys. And I called Ridley and said, I'm out of here, you know, and I was insane. I wanted my name off the picture, you know, it's like, I didn't want to be involved.
But I needed to move on because I was now 7 months into this, and I felt I'd invested all my life into it as well. And this was going to be my next film, whether anyone liked it or not. And so Hampton met David, and I think they're still friends.
I wouldn't talk to anybody, you know, in the company. And
I'm sorry.
No, it was, I mean, it was fine because then towards the end, when they'd finished shooting the movie, they called me back in just before they finished shooting because it was a rooftop scene, all that stuff with gaff, you know. And so they asked me to come, David was working, I guess, or something, I don't know, because they asked me to come and rewrite some stuff. And that's when I rewrote you.
I guess you're through, huh?
Finished.
Harrison Ford was probably the most interesting leading man. If I say at the time, it's a little unfair because he's still very interesting. But he was that, and so we go for who's best.
I remember the first time I met him was in the Meridiana, where he came late. It was like 10 o'clock, 10:15, and he was still wearing a leather jacket and a kind of wide-brimmed khaki hat. And he was unshaven. Of course, he was Indiana Jones. And he had come off the set to come and talk. And I figured anything that Spielberg and Lucas were going to do was going to be a really good for this actor. So I thought, this is the guy, he's going to help us.
You remember the spider that lived in a bush outside your window? Orange body, green legs. Watched her build a web all summer. Then one day there's a big egg in it. The egg hatched.
The egg hatched?
And?
And 100 baby spiders came out. And they ate her.
Shaun was relatively unknown. She'd done very little at that time. And Ridley works on visuals extensively. He's a great, as a director, is one of the most brilliant visualists I've ever met in my life. And he saw something in her visually that he wanted.
She had to look great, as opposed to me just going with an actress who was a terrific. I'd always go with the actor first, actor, capability first, look second. But, you know, stars usually have that kind of combination of both.
Do you like our owl?
It's artificial?
Of course it is.
Must be expensive.
Very.
That was the happiest or best casting period I've ever had on a picture, except for a talent job, which was different. It was wonderful because we had a completely blank page, really, And we went for people who were not comic figures, I mean not comic cuts type figures, were original looking.
I had such a ball on this movie. I found that the future and the tethered look, the destroyed look of the future, the fact that he photographed a future that was already old. And I heard him say this when we were talking about the script and how we saw the movie. I thought it was so fascinating. The future is old. It's not new.
We're no computers, Sebastian. We're physical.
I think, Sebastian. Therefore I am.
When we did the screen test, we had set dressing, there was rain machines, there was smoke, there was an alleyway with the garbage, and I mean it was like lit like you wouldn't believe. I've yet to work on another film that is well lit and as well set designed as the screen tests were for this film. It was just insane.
What's your name?
Pris.
Mine's J.F. Sebastian.
Hi.
Hi. Anybody that says Ridley's not a genius, just look out there, because there's more nationalities, more languages, and that's my opinion. It's more crowded than it was then.
The film was about society's influence in day-to-day living. It showed Los Angeles many years from now being a cesspool. And 20 years ago when that was made, as opposed to 20 years today, you can see where Mr. Scott's vision is coming to pass.
I wasn't able to visualize what that picture was going to be because I hadn't worked on it at that time, nor did I really know what Ridley was going to do with it much more than when we sat down and talked about his views of some of the things that he was going to attempt to do. But I just thought it was a good gamble and something I could be probably proud of if it comes out the way they hoped it would.
This picture, you're building a world which hasn't yet been invented. And you've got somebody like Ridley inventing a world, it's going to be quite some world. And that's the point of Ridley in this case. But also, of course, when it begins to cost money.
The location of Philip Dick's original novel was San Francisco, 1992, a sparsely populated dump in the middle of a land laid waste by World War terminus. During Blade Runner's various script rewrites, this transmuted into San Angeles, a teeming megalopolis that streamed along the length of the West Coast. During pre-production, some attempts were made to move that location to the chillier climes of the East, with a number of cities being scouted, including most notably New York, home of Ridley Scott's beloved Chrysler Building. But as each of these locations proved impractical, Blade Runner turned once again to the west and headed back to Hollywood. As it appears in the finished film, Deckard's turf is identified simply as Los Angeles 2019, a logical extension of that pollutedly glittering skyline, but peppered with nuances of New York architecture and drenched in typically eastern rain. The main street onto which that rain would fall was this, not actually a Los Angelian street at all, but the old New York set on the Warner Brothers backlot at Burbank, previously seen in such film noir classics as The Maltese Falcon and The Big Sleep, now retrofitted by Blade Runner's production team to create their huge futuristic vista.
To get a picture that looks like Blade Runner is not a casual thing of building a set and chucking a few things around, and it isn't.